Hello, my name is Ryan Gottfredson, and I'm the Wall Street Journal and USA Today best-selling author of the book Success Mindsets and also The Elevated Leader. And I'm currently working on my next book, which I'm super excited about. It's tentatively titled Becoming Better. And it's all about how do we become transformationally better across any facet of our lives. So just think for a moment for yourself. What are the different roles that you play in your life? You might be an employee, a leader, a spouse, a parent, whatever else you might be playing in your life. If you want to become transformationally better in that role, I want to tell you about the secret for doing so. And this is a secret simply because most efforts to develop ourselves are slightly misguided. Let me explain why that is. To understand this, you need to understand that there are two different sides of ourselves. There's what I call the doing side. This is our level of talent, knowledge, skills, and abilities. But there's another side to ourselves, which is what I call our being side. Well, what exactly is our being side? I want to answer that question. But before I do, let me just make an observation. Most development efforts focus on our doing side. But my experience is most of our hurdles when it comes to becoming transformationally better are more associated with our being side. Okay, so what exactly is our being side? To get you into this, I wanted to tell you about my experience coaching my son's basketball team. My son is 9 years old. He has on his team about 8 players. These players are, for their age, they're good. But in general, they suck. And my job as a coach is to develop them. And so one of the ways that I know to develop basketball players is I need to help them to learn how to shoot a layup with their offhand when they're on that side of the hoop. And all of my basketball players are right-handed. That means I need to help them to learn how to shoot a layup with their left hand when they're on the left side of the hoop. And so oftentimes I will instruct my players when we're doing layup drills to do this when they're on the left side of the hoop to try to shoot a layup with their offhand. But I get 3 different responses to this. The first response that I get is I get some players who won't even try to shoot with their left hand. Well, why wouldn't they try? Well, to them, it probably means that they don't want to look bad. They don't want to feel bad. They're going to feel awkward shooting with their left hand. And they don't want to miss the shot. Okay, that's justifiable. The second response that I get is I get some players that will, in practice, try to shoot with their left hand, but they won't try in the games. Well, why is that? Well, in the games, they've got their parents recording them for the rest of their posterity to see. And of course, they don't want to miss the shot or let the team down or lose the game. They want to win the game. And so with this added pressure, in a game setting, they're not necessarily willing to try something new, something that might feel uncomfortable, something that might make them look bad, and where they might let others down. So that's the second response. The third response that I get is I do get some players that are willing to try in practice and in the games to shoot with their left hand. Why are they willing to do this? Well, they are willing to feel awkward, look awkward, miss the shot, even let their team down in the moment. Why? Because at some level, they understand that if they could develop this skill, they could be a greater value creator for their team in the future. They're not necessarily playing for the moment, but they're playing for their future. And a greater ability to create value. Now, here's a question as I talk about these 3 different responses. Do you think that these responses from my 9-year-old players are instinctual, knee-jerk reactions, or are they conscious, thought-out responses? My experience is that these are knee-jerk reactions. What this is telling me is that my players, along their being side, are at different altitudes or different qualities that range along a continuum from self-protection, down here at the bottom, up to value creation. You see, the ones that never try their bodies are more wired for self-protection in the moment. And the players that are more willing to try in practice and in the games, they're more wired for value creation in the long term. And this helps us to step into the definition of our being side here. So what is it? It is the degree to which our body's internal operating system is wired for value creation as opposed to self-protection. And when it comes to becoming a better employee, a better leader, a better spouse, a better parent, or whatever role you might be in, if you want to become transformationally better, I'm going to suggest that it is less about improving along your doing side, improving your knowledge, skills, and abilities, and much more about improving along your being side and rewiring your body's internal operating system to become more of a value creator, which means that you don't self-protect in the short term. You're willing to sacrifice your comfort level to a certain degree in the short term to be able to be a greater value creator in the long term. Okay, well, how do we do that? Well, what we need to recognize is there's two different forms of development. One form of development is horizontal development. That is efforts to improve along your doing side. But there's another form of development called the vertical development, which is all about elevating and upgrading our internal operating system such that it is wired more for value creation as opposed to self-protection. Now, I don't have time to go into that in this video here, but if you want to dive into more about vertical development, go to my website, ryangottfredson.com. You could take a vertical development assessment to gauge your altitude here. You could also get access to videos, articles, a whole host of resources to help you to better understand what vertical development is. And of course, that's the focus of this book here, The Elevated Leader. So a whole host of resources there, but hopefully this is helpful for you to understand that one, you do have a being side, and two, it is key for you to become transformationally better.